Hello, welcome to Microfiche Microphone. I'm Micah, and on this channel, we look at microfiche from the past, old newspaper articles in the public domain. We look at them with our modern eyes, our modern perspective, and see what we can learn from them. On this microfiche time capsule, we are looking back at the Gentleman's Magazine from May 1800. And this article is entitled, Depravity of the Stage. Now, when I saw that, I thought that would be interesting to read because of how different standards are in different times. And I think we can draw some parallels to some of the criticisms of entertainment, like forms of entertainment today. And I'm also curious as to why they would particularly choose the stage. I mean, when I think of Britain in the past on the stage, I think of Shakespeare, that's considered high culture today. I wonder if it was then, or if they considered that also depravity, or if they're talking about something else entirely. So I thought that it would be interesting to see what they had to say. So let's take a look. Mr. Urban, May 8. In an age when the principles of the times are inimical to peace and virtue, as well as to that profession of Christian faith which is the true cement of society, it becomes the duty of every citizen, I use the word in the sense which every Englishman ought, to protect the venerable fabric of civil and religious government as we received it from our forefathers, and as we hope to transmit it to our children. Possessed of this idea, it seems strange to one buried in the retirement of the country, that the metropolis, where a large proportion of everything wise and good is undoubtedly collected, should not only patiently bear but patronize in the warmest manner public exhibitions, which have a tendency to undermine the dearest rights of man. Really? Undermine the dearest rights? No, I don't think so. Like maybe morals, yeah, but not rights. Like you're undermining your rights by watching a public exhibition? Color me skeptical. Okay. Theatrical entertainments have an extensive influence upon the manners of society. Now, I do agree with that, although not as much then as today. When well regulated and the pieces for representation well selected, both as to matter and manner, they may be esteemed friendly to morality and improvers of public taste. But what shall we say when both these ends are disregarded, when moral virtue is banished from the scene and purity of taste is destroyed by affected language and pantomimical decorations? How can the decorations, be immoral? That's a little weird, okay? Improvements in almost every art and science have been, within a few years, rapid and important. But that is not the case with the stage, nor can it be, while Kotzebue, and his friends usurp the venerable boards. It's jumping in between. I'm hoping I didn't miss anything. Okay, where Kotzebue and his friends usurp the venerable boards of place now lying upon my table, I guess. Mr. Moore and his Mordaunt gives a just description of these German compositions, which he says were congenial to the revolutionary spirits of those patriots who cleared the prisons of France in 1792. Is it about the French Revolution? I guess. They are a kind of tragicomedies in which men in desperate situations and of daring and wicked characters are introduced, speaking appropriate language. The hero declaims virtuously and acts criminally. Their drift is to show that murder, robbery, and other crimes which, in the vulgar opinion, are committed by consummate villains only, may be committed by the most benevolent, generous, and heroic people on earth. But they're not wrong, yeah? Because, prominent people often commit crimes. It's actually pretty common. It's surprising to me that they didn't realize this then. Did they think that the lords and ladies never commit crimes? I mean, it tends to be victimless crimes, and they tend to use their money to cover it up. Things like, illegal drugs and, things like that, or like tax fraud. But there are also ones that do commit violent crimes that would pay somebody to go get them an underage girl to have sex with. Things like that. It does happen in the creme de la creme of people, like the upper class, the high upper class. It does happen. And so it's surprising to me that they think that it's bad to portray that on the stage, because this is a true thing. This is something that happens. It's just that many of them are able to cover up whatever they do because they have money. Yeah? I'll give you $1,000 if you won't tell anyone. Or 10,000 or 100,000 or whatever it may be. Yeah? The sarcasm is thrown out against those characters which, though sometimes prostituted to unworthy purposes, are useful and beneficial to society. French principles are to be met with in almost every sentence. Those principles, I mean, which in scripture language have turned the world upside down. Kings are reviled for no other reason but because they are kings. The ministers of kings are upon all occasions the subject of calumny and reproach. The distressed veteran who has been dismissed from his public employments for professing Jacobinical opinions is held forth as deserving of supreme pity. Chastity is despised if it opposes sentiment. The prostitute becomes the faithful wife. The faithful wife sacrifices her marriage vows to fulfill any other imaginary duty. Religion, under every description, bends before philosophy, and if there be any other perversion of human reason, or of those venerable ties which have long bound society together, the plays of Kotzebue will afford 1,000 instances. Okay, now if they are French plays, I am not familiar with Kotzebue. I will look it up later, yeah? But if they are French, it makes sense to me that the kings are reviled for no other reason because they are kings. I mean, this is just after the French Revolution. Like, they hated the upper class. So that isn't surprising to me. I feel like that would just be the fact of plays reflecting society of the time, yeah? Ministers of kings are occasions of objects of calumny and reproach. Also not surprising in view of the French Revolution. Distressed veteran who has been dismissed from his public employments for expressing Jacobinical opinions is held forth as deserving of supreme pity. Don't you think he is? Like, if you lost your job because of your opinions, like politically, I would feel sorry for that person. I mean, unless they're going around hurting people, just having a political opinion is allowed. Chastity is despised if it opposes sentiment. I feel like that's still true today, yeah. The prostitute becomes the faithful wife. I don't see any reason why a prostitute couldn't become a faithful wife. Yeah? Like, most women who are prostitutes don't do it because they like being prostitutes, although some people do, but in general, it's because they want to make money. Like, there weren't that many options. Yeah? Also, it's faster than making money in other ways. The faithful wife sacrifices her marriage vows to fulfill any other imaginary duty. Well, in that case, she's not faithful now, is she? But I think that that's relatively something that actually happens. It's more of a reflection of society, yeah, than it is like a wish. Obviously, there are people who are faithful, but like there are also people who would cheat on their husbands for other reasons, yeah? Religion, under every description, bends before philosophy. Now, I think that that's also normal because religion is specific to a certain religious group, and they want to speak to a larger audience. So they're not going to be more specific about religion and be like, this one's Catholic and this one's Protestant. They're going to be like, no, this one is just my philosophy. And that would speak to a larger audience, and even those who are not religious. So I don't see any problem with that either. And if there be any other perversion of human reason or of those venerable ties which have long bound society together, the plays of Kotzebue will afford 1,000 instances. If that's true, maybe, maybe not. I can't really say. Okay. The first, indeed the only one I shall select for observation at present, is instituted family distress, or self-immolation. The distress, indeed, is great. The self-immolation is self-murder. So, suicide. Why don't they just say suicide? I don't understand. I thought that was a word back then. Maybe it's not. Okay, family distress. So this is a specific play? Is that what it's called? I'm like I said, I will look it up later, but it sounds like that's the title of the play, with like a possible like alternate title, but just like in Shakespeare, he would say Twelfth Night or what you will, so like they can have more than one title. It's just what people prefer at the time. Okay, to soften terms of deserved reproach is one great object of the new philosophy. So they're saying using the term self-immolation instead of self-murder is trying to soften it. Well, it's trying to be a little more PC so that children wouldn't be looking at it and being like, Mommy, what's self-murder? Like self-immolation, they probably wouldn't even look twice at. I think they're trying to protect the children with that, to be honest. So, like anyone who doesn't understand that self-immolation is suicide, then they won't necessarily look at the title and be like, what is that? Like, is that a bad thing? They would just be like, I don't understand it. Let's just skip over it. That's kind of how the human brain works. So I think that they were just trying to keep it from being too harsh so that people would be freaked out by seeing the title. Yeah. A merchant of respectable character is reduced by the artifice of a villain to extreme poverty. Okay, so much so as not to be able to procure bread for a mother old and blind, a wife amiable and virtuous, and a fine boy. Okay, yeah, that's an issue. He goes in search of friends and employment, and he finds neither. Sucks, yeah. He meets a Jew, okay? So who cares what his religion is, yeah? So, Jew, you owe me 500 lira, maybe? Maxwell, I know I do. Jew, can you pay me? Maxwell, no. After hearing the distress with this sentiment, you are a Jew, to you I will confess it, to a Christian I would not. For these 2 days, not a morsel of anything have I tasted. Oh gosh, that sucks. He hasn't eaten in 2 days, and he can't pay the people back. That's not fun. The Jew offers a purse, which is refused. Jew, why not? Because I'm a Jew? Maxwell, fie, if such were my sentiments, I should deserve my sufferings. The Jew tears the note and goes out hastily. Maxwell, yes, there are yet men, but not among Christians. This Jew has rekindled the smothered spark of my confidence in human kindness. Okay, that's kind of a nice thing. It's like there are nice people out there, but I didn't want to take it from him. Yeah. The merchant resists temptation to procure subsistence by immoral means till the distress of himself and family is carried to the most melancholy height. A former lover of his wife now makes his appearance and offers in the most private and delicate manner to relieve their distress. Yeah. A place in India is offered to the merchant, but it must be enjoyed without the presence of his wife and family. In this dilemma, he proposes to his wife's former lover to be his wife and child and mother, the guardian and protector he can prove no longer. The lover makes this promise. The same proposal is made to the wife. What is her answer? Most generous, most heroic men, how little have I known thy worth. The proposal, however, is rejected because he was the father of her child. To remove this only difficulty, the unhappy merchant determines to destroy himself. In this interval, an interview takes place between the wife and lover. She repeats the same determination to reject the proposal and gives the same reason. But alas, how are all moral ties shattered by the sentiment? Maxwell's wild fantasy of this day might perhaps have seemed to me less extravagant before I was a mother. A childless pair might dare to part, but now, Walwyn? Now no power on earth can break asunder the bonds of my duty, no, not the power of love itself. The lover, who does not wish to take advantage of the distressing situation, gives this account to the husband's greatness of mind. To sacrifice himself for his wife is the splendid idea on which at present he delights to gaze. The author carries this pathos to its utmost stretch, for Maxwell actually sacrifices, that is, drowns himself for his wife. Be not alarmed, good reader. The Humane Society restores the suspended animation of Maxwell, a rich man whose only son was drowned the day before in bathing, adopts the merchant on the spot. The wife is delivered to the husband, and the curtain falls. I don't see that as like a bad story. I mean, so we have a merchant who loses his job. He is in desperate situation. He doesn't have enough money. He is approached by someone willing to lend him money, and he refuses. And he's like, but that gives me hope that there are nice people out there. His wife's ex-boyfriend, it sounds like, shows up, and at first the merchant is like, I could go to India and get a job there, but then I would have to leave my wife and child behind. But in that case, why don't this ex-boyfriend come and take care of my family while I'm gone? And then maybe it would be a way for us to continue to exist. And then they proposed this idea to the wife, and she was like, no, I'm sorry, I'm not okay with that. That is a wife standing up for her own morals. She's monogamous. She's like, no, I'm sorry, I'm not interested, even in desperate circumstances. I think that's quite admirable of her. Also, the husband looking for a job to provide for his family, I think that that's also admirable. And then eventually he decides that if he is dead, then his wife can move on and find someone else to take care of her, which is also a practical solution in this situation, especially during this time, because poor people were looked upon so badly. They were looked down upon, they were trodden down, and if you were poor, you were basically punished for it. You ended up in the poorhouse, you ended up not being able to afford anything. And the charities that they had at the time were really, really crappy. So the husband's logic was, if I die, she is a widow and she can find other supports. Because there are more supports for widows with children than there are for families. So he decides to drown himself, and that way his family can move on. And maybe they would go back to the ex-boyfriend now that she's no longer married, or maybe not. Whatever way, though, this is going to be a better solution for them. So he decides that that was the only solution, tries to drown himself, and the basically the EMTs, their Humane Society, I read in another article, was the society that comes to take care of people in emergency situations, particularly medical emergencies. They are versed in the CPR of the day, and they try to save people's lives. They were able to save quite a few drowning victims because of their training. So one of the things that they did is they tried to save Maxwell, which actually worked. They reanimated him. And then the person who saves him had, no, not necessarily, it's not the person who saves him, it's a different person, a rich man, it says, whose only son was drowned the day before in bathing. Yeah, so his son, the day before, had drowned. Found out what happened because everybody knew what happened, and decides to basically take care of the family. And is like, you know what? I'll take care of your family. I'll support you financially. And while that's kind of a happy ending, fantasy ending, that's the only thing I object to, because that's extremely not something that would happen. That's the most far-fetched of everything so far. All the rest of it, I think, is just a straight up reflection of reality. I don't understand why this person is so absolutely against this play. I think that that's a very much a reflection of the real society and situation of people, of the poor. Then it's just that this particular person didn't want to see it. I don't think that this person who wrote this article recognizes that this play is a reflection of reality for a lot of people, and that this is actually something they would consider doing, simply because it was such a horrible situation. I think that this person who wrote the article thinks that this is not something that actually happens, but they don't realize that this is something that happens, and that the author of the play was trying to draw attention to the fact that this actually happens. People who watch plays are upper class. Yes, not very many poor people watch plays. So the poor people already know this. They're aware that this happens. But the rich people don't know it, they don't see it, and they've never had to look it in the face. And so this author is trying to say, no, look at this. Rich people, look at the situation of the poor. Look how horrible it is. Look what they have to resort to. Yeah, when they're starving on the street and no one will give them a job, maybe they might have to resort to suicide. I actually really admire this author of the play. So I am going to say, no, this is not something I think would be criticized today. Not a play like this. I feel like most people would see it as drawing attention to something in society that is not working. And I think that most people would really admire it. I think that this playwright ought to have been like much more honored. So let's look up Kotzebue and see, like fact check it a little bit. I've never heard of this person. Okay, August von Kotzebue. That sounds German to me. Let's take a look at his Wikipedia article. He did say he was German, right? In the article? So, August Friedrich Ferdinand von Kotzebue. Okay, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing everything right, but hey, it's pretty close, I think. Was a German dramatist and writer who also worked as a consul in Russia and Germany. How do you serve as a consul in Germany if you are German? He was born 1761 and died 1819. So this is actually, he is a contemporary of this time, yes? Okay, in 1817, one of Kotzebue's books was burned during the Wartburg Festival. He was murdered in 1819, wow, by Karl Ludwig Sand, a military member of the Burschenschaften. I've never heard of that either. This murder gave Metternich the pretext to issue the Karlsbad Decrees of 1819, which dissolved the Burschenschaften, cracked down on the liberal press, and seriously restricted academic freedom in the states of the German Confederation. Now I'm going to skip his life. I'm more interested in his work. Assassination. It's crazy that he was murdered. Like, geez. Okay, here's his work. Though he was unfavorably reviewed by many critics, many of whom saw his work as immoral, just like this article, yes? Kotzebue was one of the most popular writers of his time. In his essay, Why Do I Have So Many Enemies?, he blamed jealousy of his fame. He was politically conservative and cosmopolitan in outlook and spoke out against anti-Semitism of student nationalists. He was politically conservative? Because it didn't sound like it. It sounded like he was hoping that there would have been more, like, supports for the poor. He was approached in 1812 by Beethoven, who suggested that Kotzebue write a libretto for an opera about Attila, which was never written. Beethoven did, however, produce incidental music for two of Kotzebue's plays, The Ruins of Athens, which is Beethoven's Opus 113, and King Stephen, Opus 117. Besides his plays, Kotzebue wrote several historical works. The History of the German Empires was burned by nationalist students in the 1817 Wartburg Festival, which Sand attended. Still read are his autobiographical writings, Meine Flucht nach Paris im Winter 1790, that means my flight to Paris in the winter of 1790, Über meinen Aufenthalt in Wien, 1799, so that is about my stay in Vienna. Das merkwürdigste Jahr meines Lebens, 1801, that means the strangest year of my life. Erinnerung aus Paris, which is Memories of Paris. And Erinnerungen von meiner Reise aus Livland nach Rom und Neapel. So that's memories from my trip to, I don't know, Livland? What is that? To Rome and Naples, but I don't know where Livland is. I could just not understand it because it's called something different in English, which is probably relatively likely, okay? As a dramatist, he was extremely prolific. His plays numbered over 200 and were highly popular not only in Germany but throughout Europe. His success, however, was seen as due less to any conspicuous literary or poetic ability than his great facility in the invention of effective situations. He is at his best in comedies such as Der Wildfang. Oh, I've heard of this one. I'm sorry, like, I live in Germany in case you can't tell, but I've heard of this story, which is like, because I learned about the word Wildfang as like a slang term for like a girl who is not very controllable. Yeah, like somebody who's kind of like out of control, yeah, and just kind of going crazy a little bit, and it's like a teenage girl in general. Die beiden Klingsberg, I don't know what that means either, the two Klingsberg, I'm guessing it's a name. Die deutschen Kleinstädter, the German, like, small towners, yeah, which contain cameos of German life. These plays held the stage in Germany long after the once famous Menschenhass and Reue. So it's like, I don't know how to translate that. Hate of people, I guess. People hate? Like, is there a word for that? Misanthropy, I guess. And Reue is like regret. Oh, misanthropy and repentance. Okay, sorry. But known in England as the Stranger. Graf Benjowski and ambitious. Graf, it means like Duke, I guess. And ambitious exotic tragedies like Die Sonnenjungfrau or und die Spanier in Peru, which is like, so Die Sonnenjungfrau is like the Sun Virgin, and die Spanier in Peru, so the Spanish in Peru, I guess, which Sheridan adapted as Pizarro, were forgotten. Theater historians usually consider the runaway success of The Stranger, the English version of Menschenhass and Reue, in both England, where it opened in 1798, and the United States, as one of the harbingers of the emerging popularity of theatrical melodrama, which dominated Europe and American stages for the first 75 years of the 19th century. 2 collections of Kotzebue's dramas were published during his lifetime, Schauspieler, Neue Schauspieler, and so that just is like plays, yeah. And then new plays. His Sämtliche Dramatische Werke, his complete dramatic works, appeared in 44 volumes, and again under the title Theater, theater, in 40 volumes. In a selection of his plays in 10 volumes appeared in Leipzig, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Kotzebue was the father of 18 children, among them, that's a lot. Among them Karl von Kotzebue, diplomat, Moritz von Kotzebue, Paul Demetrius Kotzebue, Alexandra Kotzebue, and the explorer Otto von Kotzebue. Kotzebue Street in Kalamaya, Tallinn, Estonia, is named after him, and other family members who lived on the street, especially his son Otto. Why did they live in Estonia? Rejected Addresses by Robert and Horace Smith contains a travesty parody of The Stranger. Okay. Beethoven's Turkish March, originally written as part of the incidental music von Kotzebue's The Ruins of Athens, became one of the composer's most well-known pieces. Jane Austen saw a Kotzebue play, The Birthday, at Bath in 1799. In her novel Mansfield Park, she uses a version of another of his plays, Das Kind der Liebe, adapted by Elizabeth Inchbald as Lover's Vows. Oh yeah, they did mention that. I'm quite familiar with Jane Austen's works. Love her. Interesting. I would love to see like a list of all that he's worked on, and see if we can find this particular piece that was mentioned in this one. I might just have to look it up by itself. What did they call it? Family Affairs? Family Distress, yeah. Okay, in German it's called Der Opfertod, and that translates more to like the victim death, yeah. I'm sorry, the only thing I could find was a German Wikipedia article. Let's see if it has it in English. No, it's not in any other language. So that's what I found. So I'm gonna skim it and then try and like describe what's going on, because translating it word for word is going to be annoying. Yeah, like the first paragraph, like of the synopsis basically says, yeah, he has very, very little money and he's losing a bunch of things from his household, and he rejects all of these unmoral like ways of making money. Like I you can only admire a person who does that. Yeah, and then it says that he finally decides to take a job in East India, and he plans to like deliver his wife and his family to Malwyn, which is his wife's former like ex-boyfriend basically, and that way, and to tell her she doesn't have to keep her wedding vows anymore. And that was his idea. Okay, so his wife, Arabella, absolutely rejects this idea because of her own morals, and she wants to follow him wherever he goes. And so his idea is that, well, okay, in that case, since he can't take care of them and is feeling super guilty about that, he decides to kill himself, and that way she can't follow him because of their child, yeah? Yeah, so it basically says Arabella and Malwyn, her ex-boyfriend, were basically making a list of all the ways that they could get, like, help from different sources, and Maxwell doesn't recognize this or doesn't notice it or whatever, and so he decides to try and drown himself in the Thames. And then he was able to be reanimated, and then he was, oh yeah, it does say from the person who saved him, yeah? He was adopted by the person who saved him because his son had been drowned the day before. Yeah, like that. So that's basically, like, the synopsis is pretty on point, yeah? So now the point is that the Wikipedia article says that there are several social topics in this particular play, and so he describes, like, poverty and how difficult it is to find honest work. Awesome, yeah? He's bringing attention to something that's very difficult, yeah? He shows a whole bunch of different immoral characters that have money that you could get, but, and that they're not really bothered with morals or justice. Also, the whole reason he is in poverty is because of an immoral partner that he had in his business. So, you know, so it's a very moral play. It's kind of telling you, you know, keep to your morals. I like it. Yeah, so originally he went to this Jewish, like, money, like, loan shark, basically. And I don't know why he has to be Jewish. I don't understand that part of it, but okay, whatever. But as soon as he sees how badly off Maxwell is, he absolutely rips up the offer that he originally made and offers him money for food. He said, go eat something, yeah? And then it says, in the middle of all of these immoral Christians, the Jew shows a sign of charity, yeah? Interesting. So in another play, Das Kinderliebe, he makes, like, this is another, like, sign that he really likes to have a Jewish person in his plays that is, like, very kind and charitable and willing to help the author. So those are, like, the main social aspects of the story. I actually really like this. Like, I'm not sure why they were calling this, like, immoral. This is, like, the opposite of immoral. This is, not only is this immoral, but it's showing you what happens when society is immoral, but that you as a person are trying to stay moral yourself. I don't understand why they thought this was immoral. Do they think that they are encouraging suicide? Because the person didn't succeed in suicide and everybody around him was trying to find other solutions. I disagree. I don't think this is encouraging suicide at all. I think what it's saying is, don't commit suicide because you have other options. There are other things in this world. There are other ways of making money. Especially because of money, you know? Don't kill yourself because there's always hope. That's what I get from this play. I don't understand why this author thinks that this is, like, immoral. It's so funny to me. Kotzebue, like, honestly, my hat's off to you. This is amazing at drawing attention to social distress and social problems. So I think this is great. I'm shocked that they thought it was immoral. What do you think? Like, yeah, like, leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think of this storyline. And if you've ever actually seen the play Family Distress or any other of Kotzebue's plays, let me know, because this is really interesting to me. I am not familiar with The Stranger. It sounds like that was his most popular work. But if you are, let me know what that one's about, because I really enjoyed this. I might actually look up Kotzebue's plays now and maybe read some more of them, especially since I could read them in the original language. I think that would be fun. Anyway, I had a great time, and I'm also shocked that there's only a German article about the play itself, Family Distress, which, yeah, it's funny to me. Yeah. So let me know what you think, and let me know why you think. What is your opinion on why the author thought that this play was so terrible? Like, what do you think they objected to in the play? because to me it's a social commentary about how society deals with poverty and how difficult it is for those in poverty to get out of it. Yeah, like they actually consider killing themselves as a genuine alternative to living because it seems so difficult because when you're in deep poverty. Anyway, let me know what you think. I really want to know your opinions, and I hope you enjoyed the Microfiche time capsule today. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you in the next video.